Hi, today is Friday, Erev Shabbat, Parashat Shmini. Hopefully today candle lighting will be at 7:19, sunset will be at 7:37. The earliest time to count Omer is at 7:57. Like I said, today is Shabbat, Parashat Shmini. Shabbat, Netz, on the Shabbat day, Netz will be at 6:12. Shema, we should try to say Shema according to Magen Avraham 8:57. The latest that you could say Shema is 9:33. Earliest Mincha we could pray is at 1:29, and sunset is at 7:38, which means we should try to eat Sudah Shlishit before 7:38. Shabbat will be over at 8:29. And this week is Shabbat Mevarchim, which means this week will be Rosh Chodesh. There will be a Rosh Chodesh, 2-day Rosh Chodesh on Friday, and Shabbat, which means next week Friday and next week Shabbat will be Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh Iyar, and Rosh Chodesh comes in from Thursday night to Friday, and then Friday night to Shabbat. So, which means there's 2-day Rosh Chodesh, Iyar. Okay, I would like to say a few words on this week's parasha. This week's parasha, like we said, Parashat Shmini, it talks about kashrut. It talks about different types of animals that we can eat, different kosher animals, and some animals that are not kosher. It talks about kosher fish, which fish is permitted, which fish is not permitted, which insects are permitted, which are not. Like grasshoppers, birds, what type of birds, is permitted to be eaten and which are not. And then the Torah says, Ki ani Hashem ama'ale etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liyod lachem le'elokim v'yitem kedushim ki gadosh ani. Hashem says, I am Hashem who brought you up from the land of Egypt to be a God unto you, and you should be holy, for I am holy. And so Rashi quotes the Chazal that teaches that Hashem says, if I would only bring out Klal Israel from Egypt, so they would refrain from eating forbidden foods that other nations eat, that have been sufficient. There would be enough reason for me to take them out from Egypt. So we see how kashrut, eating kosher food, is so important. To make sure that the food is kosher. Not only the food is kosher, but even has a proper hashgacha. Now we should remember that anything that we eat becomes part of us. Anything that we eat becomes part of us. It becomes part of our body. Turns into skin, into blood. It becomes part of us. So if a person eats not kosher, that becomes part of him. If he eats something that's questionable, that becomes, again, part of him. It affects his neshama, it affects him physically, but it also affects his neshama. So we should be very, very careful. And it affects so much his neshama. There's a tim to malev. It's so terrible. So a person should be careful what he eats, what he puts in his mouth. A person is careful how much, with his money. A person will not just, if something is questionable, he will not just, he won't just take it to do a business transaction if it's questionable. Why? Because he cares about his money. So too, if it's something that's questionable, in kashrut, you should be careful. You shouldn't just say, okay, it's kashrut, the sin will go on somebody else's head, and let me just close my eyes and eat. No. You should be, it's you. Whatever you're going to eat is going to go into you. It's going to affect you. That will become part of you. We should be very, very careful. There's a story that's brought from Reb Chaim, from Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld. He writes a story. He says a story from his Rebbe's, father, from Chatam Sofer. So the story goes like this. There were two businessmen who were, they were businessmen, and they would go to faraway countries. They would go far away. And one time they were going, the two businessmen, they were bringing a boat full of goods, and they were coming through the shores of Spain, and the Spanish authorities, they stopped them and they arrested them, and they wanted to investigate to see if they are pirates, if the goods are stolen goods or not. And they were trying to, the Spanish authorities, they were trying to see if they're trying to investigate if everything is legit. So what happened was, since Spain had a good relationship with the Austro-Hungarian Empire, so they did not want to, create a diplomatic issue, and therefore they said, you know what, until we finish investigation, we're going to treat these two businessmen, we're going to treat them well. Now, these two businessmen, they were Jewish men, they were Jewish religious men, God-fearing men, and what happened was, two people who were two Spanish people, each one of them invited officials. They invited one of the businessmen to their house. Okay, now this happened in 1600s, but the Spain still had laws of Inquisition laws that were passed from 1400s. So even though it was 200 years later, but if they would know that someone is Jewish, that person would either get killed or something bad would happen to him. So these two men, they knew they had to hide their identity. So one of the men, he's going together with a Spanish official to his house to have lunch. So he doesn't know what to do. Should he eat, not eat? He doesn't know what to do. So that official brought him to his house. The table was set, and the official sees that the man is hesitating. There's a fear in this merchant's eyes. So the official understood. He said, "Come here." He took him into the room, and he asked him, "Are you Jewish?" So he didn't say anything. Before he had a chance to answer yes, the official said, "Don't worry, I'm also Jewish." He said, "I'm a Marano. I'm hidden Jew," and he showed him the knife. He says, "This is the knife that I did shchita. The chicken that you see, everything that you see is kosher, and I myself did the shchita." So the man was so happy. The merchant was so happy. He thanked Hashem. I said, "Thank you, Hashem, for giving me this opportunity that I'm not going to eat not kosher." And he brings him, he comes, he eats lunch with him, and he's very, very happy. So meanwhile, after he finishes lunch, they finish the investigation. He comes to the boat, and he meets his friend, and he asks him, "No, how was your time, with the other official, his friend?" And his friend tells him, he says, I never ate not kosher, but here I had to eat not kosher because I had no choice. If I would say I'm a Jew, they would have killed me. So there was a mamash sakana, and I had to eat not kosher. How about you? He says, "You won't believe it," he says, the first merchant. He says, my host, he says, my host was a Jew. He was a Marano. And everything was kosher. All the food was kosher. It's like Min Shamayim, Hashem did it that my food was kosher. Everything was great. Okay, now they went into the boat. So the second merchant, he was so, something bothered him very much. How could it be that my friend had kosher and I did not have not kosher? Like, why? Why did Hashem do this to me? So they came to Austria. They came to Pressburg, where Chatam Sofer lived. Straight from the boat, he comes to Chatam Sofer and he says, Chatam Sofer, he tells him, he says, "Rav Moshe, I have a question." He says, "Me and my friend, both of us were God-fearing men. We do everything together. Everything was fine. But why did Hashem have to do this to me? Why did Hashem have to do this to me? That my friend had a kosher food and I did not have kosher food. I was forced to eat not kosher. Why did Hashem have to do this to me?" So Chatam Sofer told him like this. He said, "I have a tradition from my Rebbe, Rav Nosson Adler, that Rav Nosson Adler said that if a person is careful not to put even a small amount of food into his mouth, if there is even a slightest halachic question on it, then Hashem guarantees that he will not be forced into a situation in which he will have to eat treif. So he says, please tell me, did you ever eat not kosher or even questionable, something that was questionable? So the man says, chas v'shalom, he says, I never ate not kosher. Even questionable, chas v'shalom. I was always careful. It cannot be. Khatam Sofer says, think about it. Think. You have to think. You have to see. Maybe one time you ate something that's not kosher, or something that's questionable. Think. So the man was thinking. He was deep in his thoughts, and he says, Rebbe, says, I think I remember something. He says, yeah, what? He says, when I just got married, and my wife, she brought a chicken. She wanted to cook food, but there was a question on that chicken. So she came over to me and she asked me, is this kosher? So I had a smicha. I learned the laws of shchita and trefa, and I learned the laws of kashrut. I looked at it, and now I didn't want to, and I did not know the answer to the question, but I did not want to look like like I don't know, because I just got married and I want to show that I do know. So I said, it's fine. The chicken is fine. But she saw a hesitation in my eye, in me, and she said, you know what, maybe I should go ask the rabbi. And he said, and I said, and I said, yes, go ask the rabbi. So she went and she asked the rabbi, and she told the rabbi, my husband says that the chicken is kosher. What do you say? The rabbi saw the chicken, and the rabbi did not want to cause shalom bayit between us two. And he said, listen, if your husband said that it's kosher, probably it is kosher. But the rabbi did see that there was a problem with the chicken. But he said, if your husband found some way to make it kosher, probably the chicken was kosher. So my wife brought it, and she cooked it, and I ate it, and she ate it. So the Khatam Sofer says, that's it. That's the thing. He says, that was you ate something that was questionable, something that was not 100% kosher. It was something that was questionable, and you put it into your mouth, and that's why Hashem brought you into this nisayon, into this test. Now, we have to be very careful with kashrut. We have to be careful what we put in our mouth. Whatever comes out from our mouth, not to speak lashon hara, but also whatever goes into our mouth, something that's questionable. We should be careful not to eat something that's questionable, and not say, okay, the sin will go on somebody else's head. No, you should be careful. It's your soul, it's your neshama, it's your body. It's your body. You have to care about yourself. And therefore, we have to be careful, about the bugs. Sometimes the green leaves, they have bugs. We have to be careful, not just to close our eyes and eat. If the place is questionable, not close our eyes and eat and say, everything is great. No, we have to be very, very careful. And if we're careful, of course, Hashem will help us. And Hashem won't put us into this test. Hashem should help us and should give us strength that we should always strive to become better and better. Shabbat Shalom to all.